Hey guys, it's Ivy. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up. I read 12 books this month. I don't know how I did it, but I did, and a lot of them were extremely good books. A couple of them were like, meh, but let's just jump right in because I have a lot to talk about. The first book I read this month is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw, and this book is about a girl named Nora who is a witch, and all of her ancestors before her were witches, and they live outside the Winterwood. Now, the Winterwood is a place that you can only enter during certain cycles of the moon. Nora enters the Winterwood, and she likes to go in there and adventure around and find lost things and bring them home. While she is in there, she stumbles upon this boy whom she presumes dead, but finds out he is still alive, and she takes him home with her. And she basically rehabilitates him because he's very cold and he's not sure what is going on. And it is a stunningly, hauntingly beautiful novel. This is such a gorgeous book. I can't even begin to describe to you guys how stunning this novel is. Like, I will be haunted by this book for a very long time because I completely fell in love with Nora and Oliver. That's the two chapters this book is told in. It's told in Nora's chapters and Oliver's chapters, but also we get bits and pieces of the spell book from her ancestors, and the spell book has lots of recipes for teas or spells, and it is so cool. Those parts might be my favorite parts of the book, and I totally want the teas they drink in here because they sound so delicious. I'm just obsessed with this novel. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It does come out in November, so be aware that it's not out yet, but when it does come out, you should totally pick this up. Pre-order it. You're going to love this. And if you don't know, this is by the author of The Wicked Deep, so if you loved that book, you will love this book even more because her writing has just grown so immensely. And I did also talk about this in my If You Like This Then You'll Like This video, so I'll leave that link down below because you should totally watch it. The second book I read this month is The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This is a book about Olive and Ethan, and they are haters to lovers romance. It is so hilarious. Basically, this book is about two people who completely hate each other, but their siblings are getting married, and the bride gets a buffet for her wedding party, and Ethan and Olive are the only two people who do not eat at this wedding, and they're the only two people who don't get food poisoning, so they pretend to be the new married couple and they take the honeymoon to Hawaii. I completely cracked up laughing this entire book. It was so good. It's so quickly paced, and you will just have a good time reading it. It's a perfect summer read, and it's just good. It's a good book, and I think that you will love it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read this month is Goosebumps Slappy World, The Dummy Meets the Mummy by R.L. Stine, and this book is in the Slappy world, and Slappy ends up at a museum where there is a mummy, and the mummy comes to life, and it's basically Slappy and the mummy and the kids that are staying at this museum. It's hilarious. It's very nostalgic. If you love Goosebumps, then you'll love this book, and it's super fast paced. I mean, it's a children's book, so there's no reason why, if you don't love Goosebumps, you shouldn't pick this up because it's just a really quick and cool and nostalgic read. I apparently read 13 books this month. I don't know how I accomplished that, but I miscounted. So the next book I read this month is Hope, and this is by Alyssa Milano, and it is co-written with Debbie Rigaud, and this is about Hope, and she is highly intelligent. Her father works at NASA, and she is in school, and it's a book about her being paired up with these other kids, and they're creating this science project. It's a good book for little girls who are wanting to be accepted for who they are. Hope is a Galaxy Girl nerd, and she loves rescue dogs, and I enjoyed my time reading it. I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Not that that's like bad, because it wasn't bad. Like I said, it's for younger girls, and I totally think that it's perfect for younger girls for learning to accept who they are and what they like. Next up, I read Mooncakes, and this is by Wendy Zhu and Suzanne Walker, and this is a graphic novel about a witch and a werewolf and their relationship and how they're fighting evil off. And it's so cute and so colorful, and the drawings are amazing, and there is a hell of a lot of representation in this book. So if that's something you look for, then you will totally love this. This graphic novel comes out in October. I'm not sure of the exact date, but just be aware that if you're looking for this, it will come out in that month, and it's perfect for Halloween, so totally pick it up. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read on audiobook, and that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and this book is a thriller. It is about this man who wakes up. Basically, he was kidnapped, and he wakes up and he's in his world but not his world. Like, the people are the same, but what the people remember are different. Like, in his original world, he's married, he has a family, and in the world he wakes up in, he doesn't have a family, he's not married, and he is a scientist. And his original world, he's just a professor, and so he's like totally freaked out because he doesn't understand what's going on, and it's so intense. It's so good. I totally think that if you are a Doctor Who fan, you will like this book. There's not aliens or anything. I don't want to give you guys the wrong idea and make you think that it's science fiction, because I mean, it kind of is science fiction, but there's no aliens, so just be aware of that. But it was totally intense. I could not stop listening to it. While I was reading this book, I was just like, whoa, the whole time. I really loved it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Teeth in the Mist by Dawn Kurtic. Clearly I can't say that. So moving on. This book is told in 2 different timelines. One is in the past and one is in the present, and this girl has magical abilities, and her father had magical abilities, but he is now in an insane asylum, and she wants to figure out what happened and why he can't talk. So she goes to the place where he was when all of this happened, and it is basically this place, like mansion house up in the mountains, and this house is creepy as fuck, and weird shit had happened there a long time ago. Like, a lot of people died. You know what? Okay, I had a very high expectations going into this book, and my expectations were not met. I thought this book was very chaotic. The story itself was creepy, but it was very much so all over the place with the different timelines. It didn't flow nice. It didn't have a nice flow. Like, if you like Stephen King, how he goes back and forth in different perspectives, it flows nicely. This one did not. It was all over the place. I do think that if you like Crimson Peak, you could possibly like this book. I love Crimson Peak, but I did find similarities, but I did not enjoy this book as much as I enjoy that film. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, but upon further reflection, I ended up lowering my rating to 2.75. It just wasn't as good as I expected it to be, which is such a shame, because I felt like this book had so much potential to make my favorites list, but not everything will. The next book I read this month is Where the Crawdads Sing by Julia Owen. This book is about Kaya, and Kaya is abandoned by her mother as a child and left with her abusive father and her siblings. And the older her siblings get, the more of them leave as well, because they're tired of being abused and neglected, and they all leave Kaya there. And for a while things are okay with her father, but then things get bad again, and then her father just never returns, and she is all alone. The people in the town recognize her as the Marsh Girl. Somebody does reach out to her when she's younger and tries to take her to school, but she's bullied at school, so she's afraid to go back, and she learns that if she wants to survive, she has to have money, and so she finds mussels and she sells them to the guy that is across the marsh. And this book, it's very slow very slow. When I was reading it, I was like 160 pages in, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to finish this book. But my grandma was like, you have to finish it. You have to get to the end. You have to. And I was like, okay, something is happening. So that's like half of this book. The other half of this book is in another timeline where somebody is murdered, and they're trying to figure out how he was murdered, or if he even was murdered, and they blame Kaya, the Marsh girl, as an adult. So it starts the story off from when she's younger, and it builds up to when she's older, and she falls in love in this book a couple of times, and I was pleasantly shocked. By the time I got to the ending of this book, I was sobbing. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I cannot believe a book that I thought I was going to DNF, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. That's how stunningly beautiful it turns into a story. It's magnificent, and I can't believe I was going to DNF this, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. That's insane. So definitely, if this isn't your cup of tea, just, I don't want to say push yourself through it, but you should, because it's just so jaw-dropping good. The ending is so good. So I recommend. The next book I read is Harry Potter, A History of Magic, and this is part of the British Library collection, which I did listen to on audiobook, and I think that Natalie Dormer, is that her name? Natalie Dormer? Something like that, from Game of Thrones. She was the narrator of this book. I think she did a fantastic job, and if it would have just been her, I probably would have rated it higher, but because there was this other guy in there, which I forgot his name because he's not important whatsoever, he was so awful. He like did this creepy whisper thing, and it made me really uncomfortable, and I really did not like it. So because of that, I rated it pretty low, like 3 stars. I probably would have given it 5 stars if he wasn't involved, because it took me out of the actual story. His creepy narration took me out of the actual story, and I couldn't enjoy it. And this is basically just like bits and pieces from Harry Potter, and they talk about the history of different like herbology, potions and stuff like that. They take snippets from the audiobooks and put them in there, and it's just a really cool thing to listen to if you like Harry Potter. The next book I read this month is Sarah Dessen's The Rest of the Story. This is a book about a girl named Emma Saylor, and Emma Saylor lost her mother at a very young age to addiction, and she's a little bit older now, and her dad is getting remarried, and her plans to go and stay with her friend during her father's honeymoon fall through. Her dad decides to send her with her mother's side of the family at the lake. Now there's 2 different parts of this lake. There's the rich part, and then like the lower class part, and she's going to stay at the lower class part, and there she learns a lot about her mother, a lot about herself. She falls in love. She connects with her family, whom she didn't even know, and grows really close with them. She works at the motel, and it's just a beautiful story. It's a great lake beach read. I think my favorite character in this book was Rue, and there were just such beautiful moments that brought me to tears, and the family dynamic was great. It was hilarious. Her father did annoy me at times, but by the end of the story I liked him, so that's fine. But I think this is my first ever Sarah Dessen novel. I think I tried to read one of her books in high school, but then I didn't. I don't know. So I really liked it, and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is The Babysitter's Coven, and this is by Kate Williams, and I was lucky enough to be given a copy of this off of NetGalley and read and review it there. The Babysitter's Coven is about this girl who realizes she has like telekinesis powers, and just weird stuff start happening to her. Her mother is in a home. She doesn't speak, she doesn't talk, she doesn't interact, she just sits there, which there's some mystery obviously happening there. She's in this babysitters club with her friend, and then a new girl shows up and the new girl joins their babysitters club. The new girl is there for like a reason. Her mother told her find the babysitters, and it's just, this book was compared to like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's not scary. I thought it would be scary. Honestly, it was very amateur. I think that it's a good reading range for 13 to maybe 16-year-olds, which I love YA, so the fact that I'm saying this book was young for me is kind of weird, but it was young for me. I will say the first chapter will hook you right in, but after that the story falls very, very flat. I'm not exactly sure of the release date of this book. I do know it's not out yet, but I ended up giving it only 2 out of 5 stars. I really didn't enjoy my time reading it. Unfortunately, I really wanted to, because it has one of the best covers that have ever came out this year, but like I said, the story just wasn't up to here for me, so maybe that will be your sort of thing. The next book I read was Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I listened to this on audiobook. And this book is about Aurora, who wakes up 200 years in the future with aliens. Family's gone, everybody she knows is gone, and that's basically all I'm gonna say. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I really had high expectations, which is my own fault. I should have just went in the book just going in. They are the authors of the Illuminate Files, so if you're looking for something like that, it's very different. The format's different, but it wasn't a terrible book. It wasn't awful. I enjoyed it just fine, but it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever read, and I probably won't continue with the series. That's just me personally. I think I'm probably an unpopular opinion where this matter falls, but we can't all love the same books. I really wanted to love it, but I didn't. It was just an okay book for me. Like I said, 3 out of 5 stars. The final book I read in the month of June is Hello Girls by Brittany Cavallaro and Emily Henry, and this is about Lucille and Winona, and they are 2 badass teenage girls who have some bad things happen to them, and they meet each other in front of a police station, and they decide that they're going to take their lives back in their own hands. Winona's father is abusive, and her mother is gone, and Lucille's family is, they don't have a lot of money, and her brother's a drug dealer, and her brother steals from her, and her mom always takes her brother's side instead of her side, even though she's the one that works really hard for the family. So when they link up, it is at the point where Winona finds out that her mother is still alive and in Las Vegas. So they decide that they're going to drive to Las Vegas and find her mother, but while they're driving there, they like rob a gas station and get involved in all kinds of crazy stuff. This book was a good time. That's exactly what it was. Like, you're going to have a good time reading this book. It's insane, but it's awesome. I gave this book 3.75/4-ish out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed my time reading it. I flew through it. I think that you guys will enjoy it, and you'll have a hell of a lot of fun reading it. Definitely pick this one up. It comes out August 6th, and this is the final book I read this month. 13 books. I don't know how I did that, but I did. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys read in the month of June, and if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. Tap the bell to get notified when I upload new videos, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.